Like, hello and welcome everyone to the very first session in CRI's internal research spotlight series. I'm Katsali Laidley, CRI's community engagement manager, and I'm so grateful to have all of you with us today. This new series was created with a simple but powerful purpose to make CRI's work visible and real within the university. It's multi-campus, and we want to be able to form those relationships with everyone across the system, and as well as with partnering universities and colleges as well. We're here to highlight projects, people, and possibilities, and that lives at the heart of our mission. At CRI, we really believe that research should be community-informed, equity-centered, and transparent. That means creating this kind of space, not only to share out what we're doing, but to invite our colleagues across the globe to be able to do the same. So we're here advancing public knowledge about cannabis, with a centering on equity, and doing this by building these collaborative networks. So today is a way to introduce ourselves to the University of Illinois, people across the state, and surface new interdisciplinary connections and spark collaborations that align with our values. Now, moving on, let me just cover our agenda. We're right at the beginning. Welcome, welcome. We're going to start with an overview of CRI's mission and the context that brought us here. We're going to be welcoming questions throughout. Please put them in the chat. Please put it in the Q&A section, which you can find under the More button if it doesn't automatically show up in the toolbar. And then we'll be handing it off to our guest, Israel Gasperin, and he'll be presenting Zentrela's EEG technology. And after that, we will be taking the time to answer any questions and continue conversations and see where we can connect after today. So now I'm going to be handing it off to our director, Reggie Gavino. Reggie.
You're muted.
Got it wrong from the very beginning.
Oh, there we go.
All right. Let me start over again. Thank you, Katsali. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited that we have everybody attending our first kickoff seminar series. Let me just start a little bit with a brief overview of CRI. I don't know how many of you have never attended one of our events before, but we just want to give a brief overview of what CRI is, what we do. I'm going to start with our mission and vision. Next slide, please. What we are focused on here at CRI is conducting community-centered, rigorous cannabis research that fosters public understanding, informs policy, and promotes equity. And through this collaborative approach, a collaborative interdisciplinary approach, CRI hopes to be able to turn science into impact. And I also want to say that our mission and vision, we spent a lot of time working on this, and it is not just core CRI input. Everybody who's part of the CRI team, which includes our partners as well, was asked to be part of our mission and vision kind of, creation, right? So we are particularly proud of these things because it does represent a very broad view, and I think that it will allow us to accomplish some very good things at CRI. Our vision is to be the leading trusted institute for community-informed, interdisciplinary cannabis research by setting scientific standards, informing policy, advancing equity and sustainability. Next slide, please. So briefly, our year 2 focus is, as Katsali mentioned, community engagement, education. We are in the process of setting up our STEAM kind of program, and potentially leading also towards a kind of workforce development program as well. The community engagement is going to help us inform our community-guided research. And then we have some internal and collaborative research projects that we've already started at CRI, and I'll touch on those briefly. But all of this goes into basically the bottom box there, which is to disseminate and amplify unbiased information in a way that people can understand and can put to use. Next slide, please. So I mentioned our research. So our collaborative research, and by that I mean research that's done outside of our own laboratory. So we have some projects that are going on with people where we are investigating projects with people at UIC and NIU, and we've listed what some of those projects are. In particular. One of the things that we are trying to do with our research is to ensure that our research meets the deliverables of our IGA with the state as well. And so research that impacts those potentially minoritized or underrepresented populations, and also basic research information that will help advance the knowledge of cannabis in a way that informs people and helps people make better decisions. So that's basically what we're looking at in terms of our either collaborative or in-house research. Next slide, please. And okay, so I'm going to introduce Israel. Israel is doing something that I have been interested in trying to put together some sort of analysis of how the brain responds to cannabis and cannabinoids for I can't tell you how long. And so when I found Israel and his research, I was just blown away. So Israel started his academic journey by getting a software engineering degree from the Instituto Tecnológico Superior de Jalapa. And I know I have no Spanish accent, so forgive me for butchering that, but he got his master's in engineering from McMaster University of Canada, and then completed the entrepreneur program at the Ontario Brain Institute, where the research he's about to talk about kind of started. So, and I guess with that, I would also like to say that, so one of the goals of our Spotlight series is to kind of surface partnerships that would lead to collaborative research that pushes the boundaries of what cannabis research can be, and to spotlight people who are doing that. That's why I'm really excited to have Israel here. So just as a brief overview, Israel's work uses AI and wearable EEG technology to generate objective science-backed evidence in the impact of cannabis, wellness, and health products. But I want people to have an open mind, because it's not just about how cannabis, or not about just measuring the effects of cannabis on the brain, right? So there are, in fact, many other things that you can do with this technology, and I'll leave that up to Israel to describe. And with that, we're proud to have Israel here as our first guest speaker. So I'll hand it off to Israel now.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Reggie and Quetzali, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you and share what we have been building for now about 9 years. And if it's okay, I will start sharing my screen, because I have prepared a presentation to tell you a little bit about my startup and the technology that we have been developing and continues being developed. As you may know, artificial intelligence is an ongoing technological activity that probably will be with us, who knows, maybe forever. And basically what we are doing is combining artificial intelligence and wearable EEG technology to analyze consumers' brain activity or people's brain activity in a very different way than it has been done for decades, since the beginning of this type of technology. Just a very quick introduction about my team, because Reggie already introduced me very nicely. Thank you. Dr. Dan Bosniak, he used to be my technical supervisor at McMaster when I was you know, doing this entrepreneurship program where I was proposing the use of EEG technology for multiple non-medical applications. And Dr. Bosniak has been a pioneer in the use of machine learning and artificial intelligence with EEG data. And as a result of that, in 2016, we founded the company. And then, as you can appreciate, the rest of the team are just a group of researchers, psychologists, AI scientists, and data scientists developing the solution that I'm just going to talk about. But I guess the very first point that I always like to um, discuss and create awareness is about the reason why we build this technology. Because if you think about it, we have never ever had any form of brain technology or neurotechnology that literally reads your brain activity and tells us accurately, objectively, and quickly what is your mental state. We have never ever had something like that that tells you, okay, you are high with cannabis, or you are anxious, or you are happy, or relaxed, or energized. And because of the lack of this technology, all the majority of the human research or human investigations or mental state assessments that we have been conducting is heavily relying on questionnaires, body fluid analysis, or in the case of the cannabis industry, trying to correlate the amount of a substance in a product to determine how potent or how strong it is. And there is a lot of evidence showing that toxicology studies and other type of scientific trials showing that there are significant challenges with these technologies or research tools. From the questionnaires' points of view, we know that this is so subjective and very variable, the definition of all of these mental states and the bias component, that when you receive this feedback from consumers, it creates some challenges. Then with body fluid analysis, we know that there is no direct correlation of measuring the concentration levels of a substance in blood, saliva, urine, or breath to determine if a person, what's the mental state of an individual. And that correlates to the third point, which is, about, you know, reg- the fact that a product has a high percentage of THC in this case doesn't necessarily mean that it is very effective and potent at delivering intoxicating or psychoactive effects. And I'll show you multiple study cases that with this objective and physiological analysis, we are proving the unreliability of that approach today and how we are contributing to solving it. And due to this technological limitation, and then the existing limitations or challenges with the current solutions, multiple stakeholders of the industry are facing multiple and different their own type of challenges. In the case of law enforcers and employers, we know that there is a lot of inaccuracy and subjective and biased opinions about determining impairment, because everyone knows that 5 milligrams of THC in saliva or blood does not necessarily mean that a person is impaired. It might just be residuals of THC for many hours or days after its consumption due to the residuals that are lingering in the system. Then we have researchers heavily relying on questionnaires and body fluid analysis. In the case of the industry, licensed producers, I see, two main types of licensed producers. Those companies that are truly science-driven, and others that are just merely focused on the business side. And this is a problem for the industry and any country or geographic jurisdiction that is legalizing it, because we we know that there are products that might have the same amount of THC or CBD, but they might not be effective or the combination of THC with other, ingredients or components of the product might create poor or unpleasant effects. And today the consumer doesn't know that. I'll talk more about it in a second. And but I just mentioned the problem from the consumer point of view. When they are at a retail point or in an e-commerce platform, they just don't have the knowledge or the information in order to make educated and informed decisions about what product they should buy and how they should buy it in order to accomplish that wellness or health benefit while minimizing the adverse or unpleasant effects that cannabis might trigger if you overuse it or overconsume it. And then last but not least, I think that probably the issue on the health professional side is even bigger and applicable to any other kind of health professional, in the sense that we know that there is a lot of human variability when you consume cannabis or any other pharmaceutical drug or wellness products, and the lack of that research that enables health professionals to accurately prescribe a product and a dose for a specific type of consumer has been an issue that has limited, in this case, the potential use of cannabinoids for actual, you know, therapeutic and non-therapeutic like wellness benefits. So when we founded the company, this is, we always have believed that EEG neurotechnology has many potentials outside medical applications, because this technology is not new. It has been used for more than 100 years by neurologists and neuroscientists. The challenge is that in order to use this technology, you need to have deep expertise in order to interpret alpha, beta, gamma brainwaves, like brain frequencies, different type of EEG features that are generated from this type of data. And the whole process of cleaning the data, processing the data, analyzing the data takes many hundreds of man hours. And that makes it lengthy and very expensive for multiple applications outside, outside the medical space. And I guess on top of that, one of the biggest challenges with this technology is that none of the existing ones have a standardized way of analyzing EEG data. Every researcher conducts their own analysis in their own way, and while it's valid, it's not standardized and it's not quantifiable. And that's the value that and the opportunity that we saw with the use of artificial intelligence. Our vision and belief in 2016 is that we could apply machine learning to large EEG data sets in order to accurately, reliably, objectively, quickly, and cost-effectively detect a mental state. 9 years ago, this was literally unbelievable, but we believe in it. So we were so thankful that we presented this initiative to the Ontario government in 2016, when they were already in the process of writing the legislations for the recreational use of cannabis at a federal level or nationally. And since then, we were supported in order to develop this technology. So we knew that in order to unlock the potential of artificial intelligence, we had to build our own databases, because for the same reason I mentioned before, there has never existed a standardized EEG database that are accurately labeled with multiple mental, cognitive, emotional states like moods, feelings, body sensations, the cognitive states of individuals, drug effects that are experiencing after intake, consuming cannabis, what is their heart rate, what is their personality, what is their mindset when they are we are collecting their EEG data. And based on all of this information, in 2020, we developed our own artificial intelligence, which is called Cognalizer, because it's a cognitive analyzer rather than a breath analyzer. And what these AI models are doing is, analyzing EEG data, or also known brain activity, in the exact same way we have been conducting these human trials. We can, this analysis can detect in which mental state, or the multiple mental states that an individual is in. And thanks to the support that we received from the Ontario government, we not only develop a commercially viable solution, we also were able to contract an independent clinical research organization that evaluated the technology, and I'll tell you more about it. But as you can see, the whole idea here was to develop a portable, non-invasive EEG device that records electrical brain activity from the 8 main regions of the brain, the left and right lobes of the brain: frontal, temporal, parietal, and occipital. Collect the data in the standardized way we have been doing it, and then apply machine learning, or apply the AI models that we trained in order to detect the mental state of an individual and how these mental states are impacted by cannabis. Now, as you can appreciate, not all these mental states are related or directly linked to cannabis. They are agnostic, and so other substances or therapies or solutions are impacting these mental states, and I'll talk about it in a second. And yeah, so as a result of this independent clinical trial that was conducted by a contract research organization, first we proved what is the value of this technology to improve the investigation process of cannabis impaired driving. As I mentioned before, the biggest challenge that exists today is the potential inaccurate accusations of being impaired just because you have THC in your system, without truly knowing if those are residuals of THC but not longer mentally impaired, or if you are. So with this trial, we proved that our AI-based EEG analysis was above 85% accurate. In terms of sensitivity and specificity, was also balanced to be above 85%. And this analysis was conducted under fully blinded scenarios. And the outcome of that study was also showing how we can potentially detect and mitigate false determinations if we combine an oral fluid test with our brainwave test for that application, and being more objective and fair in this type of evaluations. But then the Ontario government didn't, well, not necessarily the Ontario government. The Ontario Provincial Police was part of this evaluation, and they didn't adopt the technology for that application. I saw it coming. My business partner saw it again as well, and we started to get introduced and connected with different stakeholders of the cannabis industry, and we identified the opportunity of applying our technology as a research tool to study the non-therapeutic effects of cannabis in an objective, accurate, compliant, fast, and affordable way. So we can help research universities and labs, licensed labs, developing products to measure the effectiveness of some cannabinoids, specific cannabinoids, or specific formulations, how good they are at delivering an intended effect. And this started to happen in 2021 when we set up our lab officially for commercial purposes in Ontario, and we launched this service. And as a result of that, multiple independent ethics research boards have reviewed and approved this research model. And in the case of Canada, Health Canada, which is the equivalent of the FDA here in the States, created a very unique research framework that is called non-therapeutic therapeutic research on cannabis, which basically enables you to receive products from licensed producers and do interventional trials without the need of meeting necessarily medical level or clinical level trials, as long as you speak about non-therapeutic effects of the recreational or adult use market. And so that's a unique research license that our company obtained, and other licensed producers have obtained as well, due to the standardization and replication of our research model in their labs. And you know, based on I guess nine years of research with this technology, I would like to share with you some of the most significant results that showcase the capabilities of the technology for this type of analysis. The first type of EEG analysis that we do is to measure the psychoactive effect levels that a subject is experiencing at a certain time point. In simple, non-scientific ways, it means that we are able to objectively quantify how high a person is. And this is the first analysis that we use to test its commercial viability for cannabis impaired driving detection or workplace safety, and measuring the psychoactive potency of cannabis products. And in this first study that one of the very first studies that we conducted was with 90 participations from consumers that drank a cannabis beverage, then they consume a gummy with 10 milligrams of THC, as well as the beverage, but also they were smoking cannabis. And with this AI-based EEG analysis, we were able to objectively characterize the onset time of the psychoactive effect, how potent was the onset of that psychoactive effect, the maximum potency of that experience, and when that potency happened. And in this case, we conducted we were scanning or recording the EEG of the study subjects for 5 hours after product consumption. And as you can appreciate, even after 5 hours, on average, the study groups were still experiencing some kind of level of psychoactive effect at that point. Then we have also been conducting trials where we want to measure different intoxication levels or psychoactive effect levels created with products that contain 2 versus 5 versus 10 milligrams of THC. Is a similar trial in a sense that 30 participations per product were part of the study. And as you can see, the analysis here is just showing how the onset time, the onset potency, the maximum peak potency of the psychoactive effects, and the potential offset time of this effect is changing depending on all of these variables: how much you consume, what is the product format. Also, you may appreciate here that for beverages that contain 2 milligrams of THC didn't meet our definition of onset time, which means that there was a lot of significant variability with the study subjects in order to generate the psychoactive effect, the trajectory of the 2 milligram THC beverage, which basically suggests that not everyone will get an intoxicating or an actual kind of psychoactive effects from THC, like these sensations of body high, head high, random uncontrollable thoughts, which is what this algorithm is detecting, is the in the 2 milligram THC group, not many experience that. Um, and then this is one of the most important results that we accomplished in collaboration with different licensed producers in Canada when we were benchmarking two products that contained the exact same amount of THC, but they were manufactured by different companies and using, I guess, different manufacturing methods. Maybe the extraction methods, the way the emulsification or delivery methods were different. The quality of the can or the package to preserve the cannabinoids probably was also different. And also it's interesting that in this trial we recruited the same study subjects to try both products in different days. Even though the other two trials were just general consumers and not necessarily the same participated in the consumption of each product. In this case, the same one. So the human variability was applied to both psychoactive effect trajectories, and it still was significantly different. The onset time and the potency of that psychoactive experience from the two products, which reinforces what the industry knew, that all of these other factors beyond THC are impacting and determining the quality and effectiveness of a product to deliver certain effects. And all this to say that the reason why this we created this first research model from the industry point of view is to help them solve this problem, which is a saturated market with products that look undifferentiated quality-wise. In Ontario alone, there are more than 4,500 SKUs. And the problem is that consumers look at all of them and they see the exact same information. THC and or CBD, and then maybe the producers are playing with colors and kind of cool names, etc., to try to differentiate the brands. But the reality is that they should disclose how effective and how effective their products are. But because they didn't have a research model that was fast and cost effective, and technology like ours didn't exist before, they were not able to differentiate them. And that has been creating a big crisis in the industry. But I think that this is limiting the government or regulatory bodies as well as licensed producers to meet their mandate of providing accurate and reliable educational and informational content for the consumer to make informed decisions. And and since we created and set up our first lab in Canada, we have been working with multiple organizations. But also it's important to highlight that our technology is portable. So in the same way that we have been implementing it in universities and research hospitals, licensed producers developing their own products or cultivating their own strains are using it to test the effectiveness of the products. In this case, we conducted a double-blinded crossover EEG trial that I personally led this trial in Massachusetts to measure the psychoactive potency of two different cannabis strains, one that contains only 14% of THC, and the other one containing technically 30% of THC. In this study, 9 study subjects tried both products in different days. And the request was that in the same way that they were smoking the first strain, we were registering and taking notes about the number of puffs that they took so they could inhale the same amount from the second strain. And this is how significantly different is the psychoactive effect level created by the two products. as you can appreciate, the 14% THC strain is twice as potent than the 30% THC strain. We conduct a statistical analysis to confirm how reliable is this significant difference. And in this way, um, the value that this is bringing to the industry is that consumers are being educated that THC alone is not a reliable or is not a complete and definitive piece of information that will determine how potent or strong is a product. It's all about the the whole enchilada, the whole the the all the active ingredients and maybe terpenes, etc., that are part of the plant, or in the case of manufactured products, all the other active ingredients like terpenes that are infused in those products, etc., to deliver to that they need to be considered to measure the true effectiveness of a product. Um, then another trial that we conducted in collaboration with PAX Labs in San Francisco is with Dr. Echo Ruffer and Ricardo Celedon, where we wanted to benchmark two vape products that are developed with different extraction methods. The first product, the live rosin product, is using that method, which basically, in simple terms, because I'm not an expert in that field, but in simple terms, the plant is squeezed in order to extract and obtain all the cannabinoids and all the compounds in a cannabis plant, so they can be infused and in oil for vaporization. But the THC distillate is just literally isolating THC to be vaporized. Both products apparently contain the same percentage of THC. In this case, 14 study subjects consumed these products, and they took 8 hits from each one, and we obtained very similar results, in a sense that that's famously called entourage effect, which to me is kind of a synergy of a set of cannabinoids and other compounds like terpenes are playing a key role in order to deliver what this segment or this type of consumers are looking for. Um, Now, I have been talking about cannabis psychoactive effects, but when we realized that our technology was, what we were building goes beyond cannabis and it's applicable to other agent other type of research, we started to create more artificial intelligence through our proprietary method. And we created this new analysis that measures the arousal state of study subjects. And arousal, I don't mean as on the sexual side. It's more a psychological terms used to know how active or passive your mental state is. And with this type of research now, we have been conducting trials where under controlled environments, we can see how cannabis or other natural products, plant-based products, are impacting the mental state of study subjects in this context. And one of the very first trials that we conducted was with a product that contains CBD only, no THC, not intoxicating effects, just THC alone. And in the same or similar case than the other products, there are companies creating advanced and innovative formulations that are more effective than just more generic products. And in this case, we did a crossover trial where 15 study subjects consumed one gummy of the serene green apple, the edible, that is 50 milligrams of CBD plus terpenes. And then in another day, but at the exact same time, in the exact same environment and location and conditions, same study groups, they consume a capsule that contains only 50 milligrams of CBD. And what this plot is showing is this AI-based analysis quantifying how much it increased your relaxation state or your passive mental state after intaking this product. As you can appreciate, the gummy containing CBD plus terpenes was significantly stronger relaxation-wise than the other product. And this type of information is what is enabling licensed producers to credibly and compliantly prove to not only consumers, but health professionals or dispensaries or retail distribution points about the effectiveness of their products, so they can make sure that their quality and effectiveness is appreciated. And the other part of analysis that is really, really exciting and intriguing to see here is when we did a consumer profile analysis. So out of these 15 study subjects, the brand owner requested to recruit females and males in order to see the difference of this product creating relaxation effects. Then as you can appreciate, the female subgroup had or experienced a significantly stronger effect than males. Even though the product is effective, what this is showing is that people react differently to a product, even though it's effective, or they react differently to the same product and the same dose. And the opportunity that this type of analysis opens up is to now enable the generation of more accurate product use recommendations. In this case, if your biological gender is being a female, which, by the way, I think that this change might be more related to their body mass index than their specific biological gender, but that's how we broke down the data. But the point here to highlight is that you can identify different demographics or consumer profiles that are reacting differently to a certain consumption amounts, and in that way is create a matrix of the consumer types or patient types, dosage, and based on that, the reaction or the type of effects that will be created. And last but not least, we have generated as of today another type of EEG analysis that is in psychology is called the valence. And in this case, our machine learning was trained to detect when you are or a subject is into a positive or negative mental states. It's like, again, it's very general at this point. So positive, you could be feeling happy or serene and relaxed, feeling gratitude, etc. Or you could be into a negative state, being anxious, paranoid, irritated, etc. And what this analysis is enabling us is to objectively measure whether a cannabis product consumed after being consumed certain amount is really creating pleasant or positive effects rather than adverse / negative effects. And in this case, our EEG technology and research model was replicated in the Westleaf labs of Decibel Cannabis, which is a pioneering and innovative Canadian company in Alberta that in their first trial, they recruited 21 study subjects that on average smoked 6 puffs of one of their strains that contain 28% of THC. And this is the valence analysis, the top right plot showing how their mental state was more positive after intaking that product. And what this kind of a multi-plot slide shows is kind of a dashboard of what now licensed producers and researchers are getting from our neurotechnology platform. Is basically a quantification of the psychoactive effects of cannabis, whether the product is making them feel more mentally active or more mentally passive, and whether that arousal state or effect is positive or negative. And when our EEG technology is used for this type of research, it is not the only one. It's combined with multiple research tools that the correlation of all of them create very strong and accurate information about the effects of cannabis on the consumer. In this case, according to these psychological questionnaires measuring their different moods, study subjects who reported feeling less irritated or angry, less sad, and less tense. So in the end, our contribution to the specific cannabis industry is to lead a transformation or a change where consumers not only see a product by their THC percentage or CBD percentage, but something like this, based on science-backed, objective physiological data that has been proven to be accurate and has been adopted for multiple forms of research, can be used to better control what products are offered to the consumer and make sure that they are really delivering the intended benefit for them. Last but not least, Reggie mentioned a very important point about our EEG technology. Serendipity, I don't know if it was serendipity is my point, but we started developing this technology for cannabis, but we just realized that all of these 6 mental states or type of effects that are classified as non-therapeutic are impacted not only by cannabis, except psychoactive, I guess, and that several other products, nutraceuticals, pharmaceutical products, psychedelics, alcohol, tobacco, therapies, wellness therapies like music therapy, psychotherapy, yoga, meditation, all of these spectrum of solutions that are helping people to maybe fight the sadness or fight the stress and anxiety, or that they struggle to fall asleep because they are too stressed, etc. All of that now can be objectively measured, so we can determine how all of these solutions, products or solutions, are contributing or helping humanity to improve their daily lifestyle. And the end goal, the vision long term, is to have fully streamlined and systematized this service that is available for any form of human research, investigations, or mental state assessments. As of today, we have a lab in Canada. We are opening a lab in the States. Research hospitals and universities are already using our technology. But it's open to also be used by psychologists and psychiatrists, or for the police or employers to, for their own research or investigation objectives. And in the end, we also see how this technology can be used by the consumer or patients in order to better understand what is their current state. And based on that, if they are feeling too stressed or too tired, whatever, they can objectively and accurately know that, become aware, and then have access to multiple wellness solutions that may help them to improve their well-being. And I think that that's it. This was my last slide, and I welcome any questions or comments, so we can have some exciting exchange about this technology and the type of research that can be conducted.
There are quite a few questions that came into the chat. Israel, you can also take a look at them up here. And there's people who unfortunately had to go to a different meeting, but they're very sad that they couldn't hear. Don't worry if people want to know what we said here today is being recorded and will be shared out with the people who were not able to make it. But we have a question from Natanya Crane, and she's asking, how do you assess mental states? Are you inferring this from the EEG data, or are you correlating this with subjective or cognitive or other measures? So people, I feel free to kind of
Sure.
answer that. Yeah.
Well, I
Oh, you can.
I can speak, right? Yeah, so we are not characterizing these mental states from raw EEG data. What we are doing is conducting these human trials that under these controlled conditions, our research team is administering multiple research instruments, standardized research tools that have been used by psychologists or psychiatrists or other scientists to characterize the mental state of individuals in regards to their emotions, feelings, cognitive states, and that's actually our innovative approach. We are not necessarily looking at the EEG feature of the alpha power to determine that you are in X mental state. Rather than that, under these controlled scientific protocols and with these standardized research tools that we know that they are working under these controlled environments are helping us to characterize those mental states. So if you remember one of my slides, oh, I stopped sharing, but when I talk about mapping the brain, all of those mental states are coming from these standardized research tools, and then labeling the EEG recordings with those states in order to then apply machine learning and artificial intelligence, deep learning, etc., to learn how to distinguish between that mental state and others.
So there's a follow-up there as well. So how confident are you that these are about these certain mental states? So would your answer to that be you're, very confident, slightly confident?
Yeah. So if it's okay, I would love to share my screen again.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so the process that we follow to validate our AI and the direct relationship of that type of analysis is it's, to the best of my knowledge, probably the most rigorous that exists. Oh, I can't share my screen.
You're sharing.
Oh, you're sharing.
You're sharing your screen. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Go to
Slideshow.
okay. So, when we develop these databases, which is, to the best of my knowledge, through these IRB-approved scientific protocols, give us the quality and accuracy about labeling the data with those specific mental states. But then the training and validation process that we have followed is what these independent trials prove to be accurate enough in order to come up with reliable evidence about the investigations or research that you are conducting. But then we are also comparing and measuring the performance of our AI solutions against the ground truth. And I'll show you in the next slides what I mean by that. So, for example, when we know that certain products are very effective at delivering certain effects, we are also comparing the level of agreement of relationships between our objective and physiological data that is coming from this AI-based EEG analysis and from a standardized psychological test. In this case, we used a psychological test called PROMS that has been used by psychologists and psychiatrists to measure the mood levels of study subjects. So when we see that our AI is following or it's in agreement with what these scales from the PROMS psychological questionnaire is characterizing, it's giving us confidence and certainty that this is reliable enough to then use it for other forms of research from our collaborators. And we have done that multiple times with every times that we develop AI. In this case, we were measuring the arousal state of study subjects and characterizing and measuring their level of agreement with the scale of anxiousness from that PROMS and psychological questionnaire. So I hope that that clarifies this specific point. But happy to discuss it even further.
For sure, and I really appreciate you taking the time to answer that. We also have someone here with us today online named Mari, and she's asking a couple of questions. She's asking if you have studied any topicals or patches with the Cognilyzer and their technology, and then later on she also is asking if all the subjects were generally healthy or were any of the subjects people who were managing chronic illnesses.
Yeah, so about the first one, we have been conducting research with edibles, capsules, tablets, beverages, oils, tinctures, vaporizers, and joints. I would say topicals we haven't done yet, nor patches, but it's basically possible or feasible to conduct that type of research. It will just vary the onset time and the potency and the duration of the effects, I guess, depending on how much the patch or the topicals have and you know how effective is their formulation in order to deliver the cannabinoids to the brain. Then the second question was about.
Oh no, I think you covered them. Let me see, let me scroll down. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Let's see, chronic.
General.
Well, there was one question about placebos. So
Yes.
when you did this work, did you have any placebos? I put an answer in there, but I don't want you to look at my answer. You answer it, and then we'll talk about what I said afterwards. So
Yeah, the research we have been conducting does not include placebo products because of the regulatory framework that we have in place and adding placebo products cannabis wise would require another type of research license that Health Canada has for research in this space. But for example, Dr. Kerry Kotler from Washington State University and Dr. Hebert from the psychiatry department of the Montreal Research Hospital, they are including placebo products in their own trials with THC, CBD, and CBG. And we have preliminary results from the trial conducted by Dr. Kerry Kotler. And we have seen the very intriguing and interesting results that are showing promising results, and I hope that Dr. Kerry Kotler publishes the results soon.
So I have a particular take on this as well, because it is really difficult to find a true placebo in cannabis, right? Or in these projects and products. It's less difficult if you're using isolates and formulation. But if you're looking at something where you're vaporizing or smoking a joint, right? the question then becomes is, what is the correct placebo, right? Because there's terpenes which have already been shown to have some psychoactive effect, right? And your data actually shows this, right? And so the question, and then there's the other cannabinoids which have also been shown, and I'll point to a study where they recently found that if you take a CBD product that has a little bit of THC versus a straight CBD product, in order to get the same effect physically, you have to have 4 to 5 times more CBD without THC, right? So there's clearly a synergistic or interactive effect that has to be taken into account. And so the question then becomes is, what is the correct placebo for some of these studies, right? So what I would say is that we need to approach this with a lot of caution. For those things that are formulated from cannabinoids, that's an easy thing to do, right? But for natural products or full spectrum products, that becomes much harder to do. So
Absolutely.
Definitely. Thank you for that, Reggie. Up next, and we still have a couple of questions in the chat. Steve Fix, I see your hand raised. Thank you for using that feature. You should be able to unmute. Feel free to, introduce yourself a little and then go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I just had a follow-up about a follow-up question about placebo. So wanted to hand raise. So first, I just wanted to say I really enjoyed the talk, and I've read your papers very, very carefully, and I think they're really thoughtful in the way that they try to parse out very, very difficult stuff. So and I could ask, I have a background in cognitive science, so I could go on forever with questions. But the question that I had was about placebo, right? So your data set, right? You are correlating, results of, rated, subjective stoned experience, right? With your, the machine learning algorithm from your rich data set of thousands of people, conducted under the influence, right? And so I wondered if it was, obviously, and in one of your papers, you mentioned that, the signals that you're disentangling are complex, right? There's pulsing, there's interacting of different waveforms, right? So it's not like you just look at one thing and say, okay, that's the stoned effect, right? So given that there are these multiple components of, what we'll just call like the stoned effect, is it possible that some of those might be closer to placebo, right? Or like replicable maybe with placebo, and others would be, I don't know if I'm how to phrase this. Like, did you study anyone under placebo conditions, like to compare to like those subjects, or is it possible that some aspects of the stoned experience might be enhanced by placebo effect of the user?
Right, thank you. I really appreciate the question, and I love it because I think that the biggest point to highlight here is that we are not necessarily collecting data based on effects, but mental states. And for example, when we were collecting data about the specific mental state of being cannabis impaired or cannabis high, we were observing study subjects being into that state. Then the other component that you mentioned was a big challenge, which is, how can we believe or reliably label the data from these other questionnaires? Because in the end, we know that there is subjectivity and the bias component. So what we ended up doing is to do some crossover assessment of what they were reporting from multiple questionnaires. So for example, from the drug effect questionnaire and a specific questionnaire for body sensations and feelings, and the psychological test to measure moods, which consists of more than 20 questions that result in 6 different scales. We were looking at and taking data that were showing consistency from all these multiple questionnaires in order to detect potential outliers or inconsistent responses, so we can use it to train the models. And these models now were trained to detect, for example, if you were under that psychoactive mental state or not, as an example. So I don't think the AI solution is affected by the placebo product, and in fact, the results from Dr. Kerry Kotler are clearly showing that. So I really hope that evidence comes to public knowledge soon, and it can be kind of discussed publicly. But I'll be happy to also meet with you and ask Dr. Kerry Kotler, and if she allows me to share the preliminary result with you, I would love to get your input and your thoughts about the existing evidence that we have generated from that placebo trial.
Yeah, thank you so much. Wonderful. And I guess just what just to add that, if you're talking about impaired driving or something, placebo stoned is still bad. So, if you pick that up, that might be a feature, not a bug. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Let me ask you, so did you do any baseline measurements on the subjects before the treatment?
Absolutely.
Okay, so because I think that actually came up just in one of the questions here, where they said, where did it go? Oh yeah, here it goes. It's without some controlled condition, how can you account for expectancy? So, and that's kind of what led me to ask the question. So you did a baseline of everybody, so you were able to understand before treatment, what their brain waves were looking like prior to treatment, so you could kind of back out that baseline. Okay, all right, got it.
And just to highlight or elaborate a little bit that point, Reggie, that's the difference between the two applications that I highlighted in the presentation. This first application, now that after doing these controlled trials to create the AI, then we have designed two applications. This first application works with 85% accuracy under fully blinded scenarios, which means that we don't need to have a baseline of a subject to detect and determine with more than 85% accuracy whether their brainwaves are acutely intoxicated or altered because of the psychoactive effects of cannabis or not. And that paired with a saliva test can help to drop up to 49% or significantly potential false accusations due to THC residual detection. But our EEG analysis is showing that their brain function is back to normality, it's not altered anymore. For this type of cannabis effect research trials, it's a little bit redundant what I just said, but under this application, we also continue doing baseline recordings. What's the current mental state of a subject before consuming cannabis or any other natural product or etc. So we can measure the changes from their baseline.
Thank you. Let's take a look at this one. It's from Megan Marshall. Please let me know, because some of this, honestly, this is great science, and some of this science is outside of my understanding, but help me understand, help me help you. This question is like, have you looked at or considered differences in psychoactivity between habitual users versus new users or frequent users? I don't think we've addressed this yet, correct?
Yeah, we have the data hasn't been published yet, but we have been breaking down the EEG of heavy/daily consumers versus, I don't know, about once a week consumers versus new or very infrequent consumers, and analyze how, for example, 10 milligrams of THC affects all of them very differently because of that reason. We have done that type of research for sure.
Okay.
So
And not only,
so we should look for that in a future publication.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think Megan also asked another question, which is, can this technology or research eventually change diagnostic criteria or be used to consider diagnostic criteria for cannabis use disorders? And so let me start, before you answer that, let me ask this question. Is this a medical device?
Thank you for asking that question, Reggie. It's not a medical device, and it's not intended to treat, diagnose all of these mental and health issues and mental disorders. We have been classifying it as a research tool that is measuring all of these mental states that are universal, being sad or depressed or anxious or angry or high or drunk. This is what we call non-therapeutic. And right now, that is what our technology measures. Now, it can be used, I assume, to correlate all of these universal mental states with certain issues and conditions under the right environments. But these data alone cannot be used to treat or diagnose all of these mental issues, etc. But answering the question, I don't remember who asked it, but I truly believe that this is the beginning of maybe upgrading, improving, making more accurate definitions of what is, being experiencing PTSD, for example. We know that it's a post-traumatic disorder, so it means that you are thinking about something that it happened to you, and it's making you feel something. But is that anger or fear or frustration or a blend of all of these feelings? So I think that that is the opportunity that this type of assessment opens up. What is the relationship of these emotional and cognitive states with a clinical and medical assessment of those conditions? I think that that will opens up then the possibility of classifying this technology to also do that type of assessment down the road.
Yeah, and I would love to hear from both of you on this, but Megan is also asking, will this be able to be used in the future to determine impairment of drivers in the field? It would have a large impact on the equity in the criminal justice system. And, part of our values here in CRI is equity is written into the
Right.
mission and vision and values. So Reggie and then Israel.
So, so first of all, I want to say that, CRI is not in the habit of participating in any research that would increase any, police enforcement or action against any, underrepresented populations, which is always a fear with any work that's being done, right? So, however, when I first started talking to Israel almost a year ago now, right? So, that was one of the first things I brought up to him. I'm like, oh my God, do you realize how useful this would be to help prove a lack of impairment or to help get rid of cases where there is an inequity in the police action against minoritized populations. I appreciate that question being asked, because that was immediately one of the things that I saw potential for in this. And the other thing that I saw when Israel first pointed out the data to me was, I'm like, dude, look at that. You've done two things. You proved the entourage effect. There it is right there, because something with lower THC but higher terpenes actually had a higher psychoactive effect. But he also, and I made a comment about this earlier, is showed without any doubt that, just because we do not feel quote unquote intoxicated the same way that we do with THC, CBD does in fact have a psychoactive effect, right? I think the potential of this tool is huge. That's why I wanted us to have this spotlight series with the people of the university. I'm hoping that other people at the university and around the state of Illinois who are researchers appreciate what can be done with this tool and would like to be able to interact with the tool either through collaboration with CRI or directly with Israel and his company. So Israel, you go ahead and answer now. So
Thank you, Reddy. I have always been a huge believer of EEG technology when it's driven or powered by artificial intelligence. Actually, I would say I have always been a huge believer of machine learning and AI for this type of analysis, and that's why we have been doing this for 9 years. All this to say that whether it's Zentrela and our technology or any other neurotechnology company, I think that we or they or all together, we will transform the public safety and workplace safety industries as well as others that are non-medical. And the reason of that is because what I highlighted at the beginning, we have never ever been able to apply something on your head and read your mind or brain activity and know what is your actual mental state objectively. And I think that the transformation that it will create in law enforcement and workplace safety is precisely the mitigating the risk of inaccurate decisions based on subjective evaluations, which is this, drug recognition expert evaluation that is fully based on their subjective expertise, but it's still subjective, and body fluid analysis. They start with saliva, and then if they believe that you are impaired, they will continue with saliva and blood, but it's the same assessment. So I think that this technology will remove that subjectivity and potential risk of abuse of power in order to just do the right thing and improve that process. So I hope that answers the question.
Awesome, thank you. I think we got some people need to leave and hop on to their next meeting, totally fine. I think we'll do one more question from Emma Childs. I'll drop the link again into the link tree to stay in contact with us, to be receiving information on our future events. And I think Israel will definitely be back to speak to us on the upcoming reports and things that will be published. But Emma is asking, do you get measures of participants' expectancies of cannabis effects? Do they expect to feel relaxed, body high, stimulated, etc.? And then if there's any last minute burning questions, feel free to raise your hand, and then after answering this, we'll go to you before we end the event.
So I don't think that they come with a specific expectation, because what we share with them is that the intention of our research is to actually characterize the different experience that all of these products create, even though they have the same cannabinoid properties, and that even though they have the same properties, they could create different and contrasting effects depending on who they are and their unique formulation. So I don't think that they come prepared to experience something, maybe feeling high when they hear THC, but other than that, I don't think that they come predisposed to say, I will relax or I will fall asleep or effects like that.
I don't see any other questions, so I think we're gonna take this opportunity to wrap it up. Thank you everyone for joining us. We believe that science should serve people, policy, and the planet. Our work is rigorous, community-centered, and grounded in equity, with impact at the heart of everything we do. And there's a QR code here if you want to learn more about us. Subscribe to our newsletter. You can do all the following things with the QR code. And we have a newsletter that goes out, I believe it's quarterly, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So, as I said earlier, we are always looking to expand the research that we do here at CRI. We are hoping that through our Spotlight series, and particularly this interesting conversation we just had with Israel, that we can interest some of you in joining the CRI research team. So thanks very much.